12th, 2025. I am Ward 1 City Councilor Bernie Schultz, and I'm hosting the meeting tonight. I've invited Mayor Sam Squalier and Fitchburg Access Television Executive Director Nathan Glennie to make presentation and answer questions following their presentations. This May 12th meeting will be the last City Council community meeting that I will host until September. I don't host community meetings during the summer months of June, July, and August. So let's get started with tonight with Executive Director Nathan Glennie, who has been at the helm since December of 2019.
Yes.
Thank you, Nathan.
All right. Thank you, Councilor Schultz, for hosting these monthly meetups, and they're very informative, and you know how I feel about it. And thank you for the opportunity and sharing a little bit about FATV tonight. So if you don't know who we are, well, we provide the local public access to Fitchburg. We have a public channel, an education channel, and a government channel. And we are out there covering just about anything and everything, and we're very proud of what we provide to our community. In 2024, we provided, between our staff and our volunteer members, we had over 680 hours of community programming provided, and that consists of graduations, sporting events, these meetings that we're here tonight, and we have a bunch of meetings coming up in the next month or so. I look at our production calendar, and this building is very busy coming up. That's all covered here on FATV. In addition, we also have our members who produce programs. It could be a sci-fi horror show, it could be a talk show, it could be a political show, but the beauty of public access is that whatever you want to cover and whatever you want to talk about, we have that space for you. We have freedom of speech. We give you channel time to broadcast it. We provide the training, and we provide the equipment to you. Membership is very, very cheap and affordable. For a Fitchburg resident, it could be, who lives in the city, it is $40 per calendar year.
What a deal.
It's not a barrier-breaking ask. And if you volunteer, well, you could probably work that off in a matter of no time. So there is no barrier to gain access to the technology and the equipment that we have. But one of the other things that we're very proud to offer is we have a media preservation station. So if you have old media formats, 16 millimeter, 35 millimeter, those old palm quarters that used to capture me crawling on the floor. We have those devices so that you can digitize that media and preserve it for eternity. It becomes a digital file. By being a member at our organization, you have access to that equipment, and we have staff that will train you on how to do so. There's so many things that we offer. I could rattle off a bunch of other things, but what I'm really proud of is the community connection that we provide, the information, the resources. I really believe, Councilor Schultz, that we lead the region. We demonstrate what real community access should be, what it provides to that community. And the team that I have, the team that I get to work with, it's bar none the best. We can accomplish anything by a team, and this team I have, it's humbling. Every day I get to work with it, and there's never a day that I dread going into work. And so I really want to really talk about that team and how much it means to me to have that team. What else can I share? Well, if you tuned into a recent City Council meeting, I had a presentation that talked about our funding and how cable subscribers in the city of Fitchburg are declining. Why is that important? Well, that is our primary funding source. We don't get any funding through the general tax, Madam Mayor. I know you would support us, but
If I could, Nate.
we're not a part of your general line item budget. We are solely funded by those residents only within the city of Fitchburg who still subscribe to cable television. That number used to be 12,600 subscribers in 2016, and now we are down to 5,600 subscribers at the end of 2024. They just came out with those numbers last week. I'm glad that my memory serves me that well. What does that mean? We're losing funding. It is myself, the gentleman who's broadcasting this meeting right now, Dan, and there's another gentleman who's watching the studios right now because we have a live show at 7 p.m. tonight. Those are the three part-timers that I have, full-timers that I have. I have part-time help, but usually they are per event. So if we need extra hands at, say, Fitchburg State Commencement this Saturday, a large production, I hire that part-time help. So when you think about what the executive director has to do at a local organization and the many caps that I have to wear, similar to yours, Madam Mayor, you're involved with so many things. So I only have really two people to deal with the day-to-days. And that's not a lot considering 680 hours of community programming that we provided in 2024. So how do we fix this? Well, I have a 11-member board of directors who we meet monthly, and we are strategizing on ways that we can diversify our income. It's hard to go after grants because, well, some of them are getting hacked apart as we speak. Others are just challenging, and then you have to follow the grant guidelines. So if it wasn't something that we were doing, well, now it's going to bring more work to time that we don't have. So when you go grant chasing, that can lead to issues. There are grants out there, I'm sure, but they're very competitive as well. And it's me and two other full-timers, so who's writing the grant proposal? Councilor Schultz, thank you for volunteering your time. Thank you. So again, we're looking at various ways. Production services might be something that we get into, but another thing that we're really exploring and hopefully hearing some good news about a grant, community news. We're already doing some of that right now through North Central News. That's an effort that FATV and Fitchburg State University are collaborating upon.
They do a great job, too.
Well, thank you. They are basically volunteer students. They have an internship with us, and again, they're not paid. They're doing this, well, it's to help their education for one, but it's giving them really good experience, but exposure to the community and how to build up relationships and navigate those conversations and become better journalists. So in the spring semester, which I think is 14 weeks, they actually produced 13 news briefs, anywhere from 2 minutes to 5 minutes, and cover various topical information news that happens in the community. Their last update, which was published on Friday, was talking about the Fitchburg Public Schools budget that had just got released a week ago today, I believe. So community news, we all know the news desert that is out here, and that's just due to lack of resources. And you have a growing community. There are many, many events that are taking place, and we can't go to everything, nor can other news organizations go. But in a collaboration with Fitchburg State University, we're really looking to explore to see how that could play a part in some type of community news programming. Again, we're doing it now. We're looking at it and seeing, well, how much bandwidth and finances do we have to grow and provide this. So that's another big thing. But back to, again, our income, it's going down. And we have a bill on Beacon Hill. It is the, we call it in quotations, the streaming bill. but it's an act to modernize community media funding. And so only cable subscribers pay for the services that we provide. But yet we have an app. I have it on my phone. You can get it on iOS, Android, Roku,
Apple,
Apple TV.
Amazon?
I said that. Thank you. We're on streaming apps, but yet we are providing something to a consumer, a viewer, who isn't paying into that system. And so, again, the bill on Beacon Hill is sent to committee. We are hoping for a July hearing date, but that's to add a 5% fee to the streaming companies. So people think it's a tax. No, it's a fee. When they established cable television, the 5% fee to cable television was meant to cut into their profits because they are using the public rights of way on the telephone poles to bring you that cable service, that business. Well, what did they do? They passed that on to the consumer, and you all believe it's a tax because it's a forced fee. Well, that was the choice of the businesses to pass it on to you. We look like the bad guys because there's another line item on your 200-plus cable bill at home. I pay it. I have cable TV at home, but again, that number is declining, and you don't hear about promotions anymore of, oh, bundle your internet with cable TV. No, it's all about streaming. And so this is something that our legislators really need to take on. They need to cross the finish line and get this bill passed, because I'll tell you, the smaller local access stations are going to close their doors. I've already heard Westwood is closing their door. That was shocking to me. I learned that 2 weeks ago. Westwood is not a Fitchburg. And there's one other in the state that I know is closing, but I can't recall it. But anyways, am I worried here in Fitchburg? Yes, but not in the immediate future. We will be around. We are looking to get this problem fixed so that we can continue to provide the resources that we do. And it's important. When you think about if we were to go away, who's going to cover the things that we cover? Who's going to provide that access? And I can't think of an entity that would. I know that City Hall, I mean, it's hard to find any extra time, and to think about taking on a whole nother segment of business, as in media, that's challenging for any municipality. They can't take that on. And so we've been trying to make the case that, look, you can't push this off to your towns and cities. This is something that has worked for the many years. We just need our old laws to catch up with the times of today. And we need to revise those laws, and we need to cross it and get it done.
Can I ask a question, or is this an open dialogue?
We're going to let him present, then answer questions, Joshua? Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
What else can I share?
No, you said, are you still staying, you'll be around at least 3 to 5 years?
Oh, yes. There's no doubt that we will be here for 5 years and beyond. How much longer? I don't have a crystal ball. But like I said, you know, my board of directors and I were working diligently to figure out other ways to survive.
And definitely the streaming would take care of it if you get that.
Yes, yeah. And it needs to pass this legislative session.
Yeah.
So we need to get it to committee, have it spoken about, and then they have the joint 10-day rule, which is in February 10th of 2026. That's when you have to have a decision by the committee as to whether or not you're going to move forward with it. And then it's got to go to the House floor and the Senate floor to get actually voted on and enacted. So there's a whole process, and I'm hoping that we can get that done because, like I said, the biggest thing is who's going to go to these sporting events, who's going to go to 4th of July and provide that community access. We got Police Memorial Sunday coming up, and you have a lot of retired police officers who might not live in this area, and they want to stay connected, and they want to pay homage and remember they're fallen colleagues.
Yeah.
And so I don't know who would provide that coverage if we were not around. So
It's important.
as I look through my notes here, I'll leave you with this. We recently got some funding awarded to us, and we're going to
Save
be...
that for the end?
Yes, that was granted through the city council because our finances, even though they come from cable television, Comcast and Verizon, it's a contract with the city. The city has chosen FATV to carry out the local access functions. And so when you hear of a financial transfer at a city council or finance committee meeting, that isn't general tax dollars. That is through the cable franchises, the cable franchise agreements. And because it's a contract with the city has to show that money on their treasury. And then they basically act as a pass-through to us because we provide that service. So anyways, long story short, we were awarded some of this money, and we're going to be upgrading cameras, which will then help us upgrade the available resources up at Fitchburg High School. It'll be a nice, substantial upgrade for them, and that's what we do.
In the middle school?
We have equipment at Memorial Middle School, and through this upgrade at the high school, we're now going to be able to bring some media technology, hopefully, if we can find a space, at Longjo Middle School. And so if you don't know, media is everywhere, from your phone to every business is now doing videos. And so if we can find ways to teach our youth some of the core foundations of communications, media content creation, responsible content creation, I think that's going to provide a better future for everybody who goes through the public school system. So I'm excited about that. Thank you to our counselors and to the mayor for authorizing that funding request, which is not from the general tax fund. It is from the PEG franchise fees. I just want to make sure that that's crystal clear. And so we work diligently, whether that's in our studios, at the schools, out in the community, at an event. You'll see us out there, and I would encourage anyone, if you haven't seen our studios at 780 Main Street, which is beside Rollstone Bank and Trust, we've been there for just over 2 years. I welcome you. Call us, email us, make a reservation. We'll give you a nice tour of the facility, show what you have here in Fitchburg and what you have access to. And if you want to take it a step further, well, we have classes that we offer. We can train you on different media technologies, but not many people know this, but we have it pretty good here in Fitchburg when it comes to community access television. So thank you, Councilor Schultz.
Thank you. Hey, would you like to take a couple of questions? from
Sure
the
thing,
audience?
yes. Yeah.
Joshua.
You know, I can't remember my question, but I have a couple other thoughts. Do you want the light side of me or do you want the dark side of me to come out first?
Whichever way you're feeling right now.
I feel fine. I'm just asking you, do you want the nice Josh or do you want the Josh that's going to tell you like it is about what's going on?
Let's hear it. What do you got?
I asked you, which one do you want first?
Whatever question you want to ask.
It sounds like to me you and the board don't know what you're doing. That's number one.
Okay.
You're focusing your energy in an area of development where your main concern is funding. So how many hours in a day do you spend for your media organization trying to get those funds from investors?
How many hours in a day?
Spend looking for investors for your nonprofit.
I would not say much at all to waste time because I don't have the time.
You're in a financial situation,
Okay.
right? All right, so that's what you got to do when you're a nonprofit. So you
Yep.
can't look at the legislative branch just to fix everything.
Correct.
All right, so the nice side of me would be increase the amount of time you spend on looking for investors to invest into FATV. And then in the future, we can look for building a bridge and a partnership with City Hall, with investors, and making FATV, because it really is essential. However, I feel like the public traumatized with how media has been. So FATV is good. We know that here locally to be true. But when you ask someone, or, hey, here's the situation with this media organization, right away people check out. Just because you're associated in that industry. So now I remember my question. Have you spoke to our state representative or state senator for any legislative movements?
Yes.
And
Yes.
what are the updates with that?
They have both co-sponsored the bill. And so at that point, that is what you ask for your delegation.
On a napkin.
You're correct.
Are they advocating for it? Are they out there pushing for it?
They know the resources and the community connection that FATV provides in all of community media across the state. Right now, it is at a committee level, and so none of our local delegation is on that committee level, and that's where the action needs to take place. It is waiting for a hearing date, which we are aiming for and hoping for a July date. Of this year, correct. And I wanted to just clarify on and respond back to your building bridges. So we have wonderful partnerships and collaborations with Fitchburg State, with our City of Fitchburg elected officials.
Individual people. You're a nonprofit.
Correct.
So you can get individual investors into the nonprofit.
Correct.
Like, have you or your board thought about reaching out to those investors? And can you identify your assets in the community that exist in Fitchburg now, and even go up and ask them if they're interested in investing into FATV?
So what we have is underwriting support, and we have underwriters. We can't do advertisements. Can I finish my statement? Thank you. We have underwriters. We have those who donate to us. But when you think about our geographical reach, there's only so many businesses that you could actually get support from. I don't think a business in Acton is going to really look at Fitchburg for underwriting because of our reach. The other thing that I can't do, and other communities do, is put up a paywall for our streaming services. And through a paywall, we could raise money that way. We could, that's not right for Fitchburg. You have to think about the population that we're serving, and how do you go about doing that the best you can. With my board of directors and I, we work very hard, and we are looking at every angle possible to keep our organization afloat.
You literally just 5 minutes ago couldn't answer how many minutes in a day.
Okay, I'm not going to go back and forth.
We don't have to go back and forth, but I'm trying to just let you know you have assets in this community, and it doesn't sound like you can identify them, that if you go out there and you look for those investors, they will invest into FATV. It doesn't sound like that's the case.
I think you have all the answers, and I think you need to have a better understanding.
I don't question my understanding.
Okay.
So we're done.
You're right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your questions.
Anybody else like to ask a question? Mrs. T?
I was thinking we didn't get any numbers, and I was curious to know what your budget was. And in response to Josh's question about reaching out, people who have come from Fitchburg may live in different communities, but they would be, I would believe, if it's a successful business, they'd be interested in investing.
Of course.
And I don't know if you've approached North Central Chamber of Commerce, but so what are your numbers?
For budget? My budget is $400,000. That includes all of our rent, our utilities, payroll, insurance. That's not a lot of money when you think about it. And especially when you're talking technology that's very expensive to upgrade. It's not a lot. We keeping our doors open? Yes, we are. Am I worried about it? Not quite. Not quite. Because I know that when there's a will, there's a way. And we have some great elected officials who we've educated in the last 4 years on the importance of community media. And to keep it free and accessible, you're going to need help that isn't from local businesses who are already tapped out, because these same businesses are getting asks from everybody in the community. And it's not like they have a money tree. So it's a very lean budget, I will say. So does that answer your question? You could
Talking about monthly funding, but
What is it?
I say we were talking, but you didn't get any numbers, that's why I asked the question.
Oh,
Thank
you got what you wanted to hear?
you. You told me what your budget was. Or you told me what your costs are.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, Nathan, for your presentation and your willingness to answer questions. Appreciate it.
Of course. Open.
Open. And now we'll turn to Mayor Squalia, who's going to make a presentation. Just got off of her State of the Union address given at FATV. So that'll be, I think, Wednesday at 7 o'clock. This will be the first airing on FATV, if anybody's interested in watching Mayor Squalia's
The
presentation.
153rd State of the City of the City
153rd.
of Fitchburg will be airing Wednesday on FATV, Fitchburg Access Television, at 7 p.m. or immediately following the Finance Committee meeting.
But it looks like the agenda is short, so we're hoping.
So
7 p.m.
Could be earlier. You might want to tune into the Finance Committee at 6 p.m. first.
We won't start it before 7, though.
Or you won't start it before 7?
No.
Okay, so 7 p.m. Or
Or following.
if Finance comes
Yes.
later. Okay. The prime time slot. Thank you, Nate. Yeah. So, everyone watching tonight will get a preview because I have got a very in-depth amount of information.
Okay.
You know, I figure I'd just run through some of the tidbits and give a little preview of what
The
the state of the
highlights,
city.
the highlights, right?
The highlights of what the
Highlights.
state of the city of Fitchburg is. So let's see. So I tried to include all the departments of the city of Fitchburg and give their highlights from their perspective and tie it all together to what really the vision of the city of Fitchburg is. And did you know that 100 years ago, who the mayor of the city of Fitchburg was?
Years ago.
1925.
1925, yeah.
Mayor Joseph H. Delaney.
Joseph Dillon.
Yep, so I got the state of the city from 1925, and so I've interspersed a few of his quotes throughout the state of the city speech, and I'll give you the first one. In 1925, he said, "The responsibilities which we as public servants have assumed demand the very best that is in us." And I said, those words from 1925 are just as true today. Here in 2025, we recommit ourselves to that standard to give the very best that is in us for the good of our city. So we, I start with public safety and giving a breakdown of the stats of the Fitchburg Police Department and the Fitchburg Fire Department. Do you have to go?
Yeah, I think Executive Director Glennie is going to take leave. He's got another meeting to attend, so thank you for attending, and
Thank you.
another very important meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
So, Fitchburg Police Department, under the leadership of the newly sworn-in Chief Stephen Giannini in 2025, following the retirement of Chief Ernest Martineau, the Fitchburg Police Department has continued to build on its momentum, expanding community partnerships, responding to crises with compassion, and tackling crime with professionalism and precision. They had over 58,000 calls for service in the Fitchburg Police Department in 2024, which was a 10% increase from the 5-year average. Officers have issued over 3,000 motor vehicle citations, which is up 13% over the prior year, showing the commitment to safer streets and safer neighborhoods. The department made 566 arrests in 2024, which is an 18% increase from 2023. In 2024, the city saw one homicide, and that suspect was identified and apprehended within hours, thanks to the swift, coordinated response of Fitchburg Police. Our overdose deaths in Fitchburg dropped 28%. Our Fitchburg crisis intervention teams now have 50% of all sworn personnel are CIT trained. Fitchburg was one of only 12 police departments nationwide to be awarded a prestigious COPS Office microgrant, which supports innovative recruitment strategies and crisis response. And we have our new K9 Atlas with Handler Officer Mark Caddy. They've completed their patrol training, and they began narcotics detection work, which helps to bolster Fitchburg safety resources. The Fitchburg Police Department has aggressive grant writing and secured over $1.5 million in new funding in 2024, which means that they are managing more than $2 million in grants as well, which helps to alleviate the burden from local Fitchburg taxpayers. The Fitchburg Fire Department in 2024 responded to over 11,000 emergency responses, including over 7,000 medical calls and almost 4,000 fire-related calls. There were 67 building fires that were responded to, 4 residents were rescued, and over $61 million in estimated property saved, protecting $1.2 million in estimated tax revenue for the city of Fitchburg, which we desperately need. The Fire Prevention Bureau conducted over 1,000 fire prevention inspections, reviewing over 600 building and entertainment permits. We are EMS, Emergency Medical Service, over 7,000 calls, transporting almost 6,000 patients, which is a 5% increase in transports compared to 2023. We have capital needs within the fire department, such as we have a boiler situation at the main station, which is now 25 years old, our new fire station, 25 years old.
25 years old.
We have a fire alarm and communication system need, and we have an investment in new apparatus that's need, a new fire engine, we have an ambulance need, and the long-planned relocation for the West Fitchburg Fire Station, which will improve our NFPA response times, especially with Great Wolf
Is
Lodge.
that going to be relocated somewhere that we know of at this point? Or?
We have had preliminary planning meetings to identify best locations, but that plan is not yet in place, and certainly not the funding.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a long-term strategy, but if we don't start planning now, then we'll just continue to kick that can down the road.
Yeah.
So
And
we're,
that's what's happened up until now.
that's right. So we've started that planning process, and then identifying that capital need funding, that will come. So when it comes to education, we've launched with our collaboration with Fitchburg Public Schools, Fitchburg High School, and the Montytech MVP Academy, which allows juniors and seniors from Fitchburg High School, 40 of them, I think maybe 41, 42, to attend the Montytech Montechusett Vocational Partnership, allowing them to remain Fitchburg High School students, but also obtain a vocational technical training in carpentry and electrical, and soon to be plumbing. So this, I'm a big fan of vocational technical education, so very excited to see that partnership. And it's really an innovative and groundbreaking kind of partnership that we're going to see expand across the state, I'm sure.
So that's located in West Fitchburg?
Yes, on Westminster Street.
Yeah.
You know, across the street from the
middle
entrance to
school.
like the Steam Line Trail, right near River Cordy.
Okay. Yeah. So right now it's carpentry and plumbing?
Carpentry and electrical,
Electrical.
is what our juniors and seniors have that opportunity. And unfortunately, we're trying to work with DESE to allow it potentially for 2025-2026 school year. But it's looking more like the mechanisms in place will be more like a 2026-2027 start
For plumbing?
for plumbing.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Fitchburg Public Schools have invested in critical security, over 380 new security cameras, door access controls, emergency response systems. We've done major upgrades to roofs, windows, playgrounds, and boilers to strengthen our learning environments for our students. Crocker Field now has a brand new turf, track, fencing, and lighting, and they continue to make upgrades thanks to the Crocker Field Restoration Committee and the City of Fitchburg, and
That's where Director Glennie was going, was to the Crocker Field Restoration Committee meeting.
yes, they have big plans, because now that we've expanded our track, we have, I believe there were over 40 track students at the dedication for the Kootenan and Woods track at Crocker Field. So they have all this brand new track equipment, and they need good places
Well,
to store
we're
it.
very fortunate in Fitchburg to have a field house too that at the high school. Most high schools don't have a field house.
Fieldhouse is awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Yes. So, the new Crocker Elementary School is partially open for certain grades. Our new $77 million biophilic design, beautiful natural light and solar-ready Crocker Elementary School. It's open for certain grades with full operations starting in the 2025-2026 school year, just starting this fall. We have a solar canopy built at Fitchburg High and the solar-ready plan for Crocker. I believe that's coming to City Council very shortly for City Council presentation and approval. That helps to offset the utility costs for our schools. The HVAC upgrades at South Street Early Learning Center and Memorial Middle School are still underway.
Okay.
Our Fitchburg High School band marched with the Rose Parade in California. We were so proud. Okay, we've got Fitchburg State University continuing to be great partners. Our new 12th president of Fitchburg State University and the first female of Fitchburg State University. So the town and gown is well represented, and we are doing a lot of collaboration and communication and work together to make sure that Fitchburg State University and Fitchburg, both the rising tide lifts all boats. So we're doing great there. Department of Public Works, obviously, the strength of any city is built on the foundation beneath our feet. So, our Department of Public Works are making the investments that we need to build strong foundations and address concerns through building infrastructure systems for generations into the future. So we're working on fixing our roads. You might have driven through some road repair work. That's going to continue through 2025. We've got a big list of roads that are being repaired, so very happy to see that happening. We're developing our pavement management plan with our consultants to allow the DPW to fix the good roads, to keep the good roads good and fix the roads that need to be fixed through, a long-term deficit reduction strategy.
And the state stepped up and took care.
$50,000 so that none of that money needs to come from any of our paving budget, because we need every cent that we can get.
Doing all the way to the Cleghorn Rotary there from Westminster Street.
Yep, and they're even repainting that Dexter's Circle roundabout with better approaches and removing some of the erroneous islands. So
Excellent.
We're going to see some improvement also within that as well.
Within the road.
Thanks to MassDOT engineers.
Yes.
And obviously the DPW working hand in hand. So, we've seen increases in Chapter 90 through a transportation bond bill from the governor that's been proposed. So here is hoping that we raise our total Chapter 90 allotment for all city and towns from $200 million to $300 million, which would gain Fitchburg an additional approximately $500,000 to $600,000 a year in road paving and road repair funding. So that is an absolutely crucial thing, because that's been level funded for like 12, 14 years, something like that, which means the value of every dollar is approximately 46 cents of what it was 14 years ago.
And we're getting a lot of roads paved in Ward 1 because the state gave us money for the damages from that rainstorm we had back in 2023. So
That's right.
First Street, Haywood Street, a lot of those streets are going to be taken care of with the money that the state gave us.
Yes. Monroe, Birch, Haywood, Fairbanks, that area really was hit significantly in the July 16th, 2023 floods. So we wanted to make sure we got over $1 million from the state for flood mitigation damage, and we wanted to make sure that we used some of that funds to make sure that we clean out the catch basins, which were full, which helped exacerbate some of that flooding problem. So that work went citywide, and then a large chunk of it going to repairs of that entire area, because that area saw the largest impact.
The people there's not too many people that live on Monroe Street. That street's going to be widened as well when it's paved. So yeah, that's a big improvement. Because with the early learning center now, there's a lot more cars leaving that Monroe Street during the day than there were when it was an elementary school. So.
Yep, and that approach from Fairbanks and Monroe is a little bit challenging.
Challenging, to say the least. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's definitely on the list, and thank you for your advocacy for that. Let's see, we've got water and sewer infrastructure. I mean, if you haven't been on Main Street, there is $90 million worth of improvements that are going on Main Street, including 4 bridges. and water line repair and replacement project, a sewer and storm separation project, because back 100 years ago, they thought it was a great idea. We'll just put the storm and the sewer lines right next to each other, so if one overflows, hey, it just goes into the river. But that bad idea. Turns out, now we got sewage going into the river, especially with the increases and the people that are utilizing and the people that of population. So that's no longer allowed, and we need to separate those. And so we're under a Mass DEP, an EPA, consent decree to separate that out and make sure that we that does not continue to happen, those discharges into the river. And we are on track. In fact, we are getting a lot of our loans forgiven. And we're getting very low interest loans, or sometimes no interest loans, to make sure that we are doing that work, because it is a priority of the state and the federal government.
Yeah.
So we're making sure that that is happening now. The Twin City Rail Trail is under construction. The Water Street Bridge is under construction. The River Street Bridge has been under construction. And then after the Water Street Bridge has about, I think they finish one lane, they're going to start working on the Water Street Bridge that goes over the Nashua River as well. So, the Twin City Rail Trail Bridge, that'll be one of the longest pedestrian bridges in Massachusetts when that is complete, right to the downtown from 4th Street to Main Street. So that'll increase accessibility to that rail trail. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm going to say 300%, but 62% of statistics are made up on the spot.
Open up along the way, right? Many businesses will open up along the way once that's complete.
Well, one thing I would really like to see is businesses start, businesses have been looking at the streets, but really they need to turn and look at the rail trail, because there's so much opportunity there, especially when it comes to food and drink businesses, or maybe an ice cream business that wants to open up, or open up a patio, that kind of thing. So there is so much opportunity on that rail trail. And so we hope to continue to foster and grow that with Leominster and Fitchburg to make sure that we're a destination and we're also a convenient travel route between the two twin cities. Let's see. Park Hill Park, we have, revitalized baseball fields. We've got a new modern playground, and we've got new wood chips are in every park. Every single park has.
Talk about that new park, the disability park that's there at Park Hill. I mean, that's really.
The Sam Pollack Accessible Playground. I think that was installed in 2021, 2019.
It was a little later than that, I think.
2022?
22 maybe. Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
So that's an accessible playground for children of all abilities. So that gets well utilization. We've recently worked on some repairs to that spongy, squishy, ground cover. There was some challenges with the installation, so we've been working with the manufacturer to repair that, so you'll see some changes there. But right next to the Sam Pollack Playground is also a brand new younger children playground, and with new mulch. Coolidge Park, we've enclosed the softball fields with new fencing at softball field 1. We have an 80,000 square foot fenced area for youth soccer, and as I walk my dogs around the walking track, which is also refurbished with new stone dust or decomposed granite, I see people in there all the time utilizing that soccer field. So the kids love it. I'm told that the teams love it, and I see people using it all the time. We have an outdoor fitness court, which is a free open-air gym that will serve residents of all ages. This we got like a $150,000 grant like 4 years ago, and it's been sitting in the DPW just waiting for some funding. Thanks to Mike Kushmerek, we got another $50,000 to allow that foundation, because the installation went a little bit over budget from what we estimated. So we got, thanks to the State House and Representative Kushmerek, we had a $50,000 grant for installation of that. And if you go by Coolidge Park, by the street hockey rink, you'll see the foundation is ready with the rebar and everything ready to pour a nice slab for a new fitness park at Coolidge Park. Wow. So that'll be very exciting. We have dog park improvements coming with improved signage and other maybe potential play amenities. Green Street Mama Fitz Playground has a brand new playground with new bark mulch, and it will soon have a new basketball court. Like at Low Park, which we are planning, I believe it's a new basketball court or maybe an additional basketball court in addition to a refurbished basketball court. And we're also looking at a walking path around Low Park with some other potential improvements.
Now, maybe you could talk a little bit, Mayor Squally, about the housing, those three buildings, the artists. I think the application, just you can still apply for those apartments?
The Fitchburg Arts Community has 68 units of artist preference housing, right at the old B.F. Brown, my alma mater, the old Fitchburg City Stables, and the old Fitchburg Academy Annex.
Annex, yeah.
And so the Annex is actually, I think, the oldest one.
I think it was the original high school.
Yeah. And so those three have been completely refurbished. I believe, I'm not sure if we have occupancy for all three yet. We might at this point. But definitely the B.F. Brown School has everyone moved in. There are challenges, right? It's an all affordable, depending on levels and depending on the number of bedrooms. So there are some challenges with making sure that all the applicants, there are rooms for all the applicants, right? So I think there are a couple of units that are still available, like a 3-bedroom that's open for 40% AMIs with, you gotta have a family size of so many, something like that. So if you, I don't know exactly, those were just random numbers. So if you're interested in any of those units, be sure to apply through New View Communities for that artist preference housing. Because there are, I believe there are a handful of units still available that, that meet specific criteria. But that's going to be beautiful. So a lot of that funding was allocated from the City Council, I believe, in 2019, 2021, something like that, for improvements, direct improvements that, we got through, funding from the state for those units to fund the improvements at Low Park. So that's where the funding we're getting for improving Low Park. We have all kinds of parks and recreation happening. We've got Civic Days that's happening July 3rd. We've got the block party that's happening July 3rd, and the parade that's happening the 4th. So the Civic Days block party, if you haven't been on Main Street, you'll see that there is a lot of construction. So we moved, everything's going to be just shifted over to Boulder Drive. So the Civic Days block party will be occurring on Boulder Drive. The parade is currently planned to go down Boulder Drive as well. So really, we're kind of on the same parallel route, just a few feet south is where the block party will be happening for July 3rd, 2025 and July 4th, 2025. So we're going to continue with all the great things that we enjoy, including the duck race and the Brewers Festival the Saturday before. And we also have a town takeover with the Woo Sox with Fitchburg, Leominster, and Gardner the Wednesday before the block party, which I believe is July 2nd. So there's, it's going to support the Boys and Girls Club of Fitchburg and Leominster. So be sure to come out and see Woofster and get the high five and the little yellow guy, Smiley.
Smiley.
Yeah. DPW continues to make investments and work to efficiently improve our snow and ice operations and get rid of the sand on the streets. How great did the streets look after this winter with so much less sand?
Yeah. A lot more salt used.
Oh, it's looking so much better. So we're going to continue to improve upon that. We've started the 40U program, so, when people are leaving trash on the side of their road or unsanitary conditions, it allows our building inspector, our housing inspection division to ensure that those things are being cleaned up, and if they're issuing warnings to people, and if they're not being cleaned up in a proper manner, then fines are being issued.
Yes.
So, we let things go for too long and no more.
We're saving court costs.
And in the past, we'd have to issue a fine, and then they would ignore it, and we'd have to go to court. And that means we're spending half a day in court with one of our inspectors, of which we already don't have enough inspectors to do the work that we need to do. So now with the municipal 40U program, we have our own municipal hearing officer who conducts the hearings right at City Hall. So you still have that opportunity to plead your case. But, make sure you don't leave your trash in
the street.
In the street. In the building department, we've streamlined the permit process. We've integrated certificate of occupancy directly into building permits, and we offer letters of completion for smaller projects right online. We've had construction activity soaring in 2024 with over $233 million worth of permitted value, which is a 42% increase from 2023. The department has processed more than 1,600 permits and 300 forms of intent just in 2024 alone, and 2025 is on track for even more. Our building commissioner, Felix Zemmel, is just really doing a great job with streamlining that permitting process and making sure that we are digitally available and able to communicate without having to say, I don't know what happened, oh, I sent an email. Everything happens on our OpenGov portal, which allows proper communication and, making sure that the inspectors are doing what they're doing, the inspectors are doing what they should be doing, and also that the residents and applicants and building applicants are informed with everything that needs to get done. So really happy with what the building department is doing, and they're doing it with such a lean workforce as well. They used to have 3 full-time building inspectors, and they are down to 2. And, they have needs for another building inspector. They have needs for another wiring inspector, and that's to improve efficiency and, the amount of time that builders have to wait to invest in the city of Fitchburg. So, we're really working to improve that timeline, that response time for our building department. And when we are able to get our structural budget, issues under control, that's going to be definitely a high need for the city of Fitchburg. Our city solicitor has been, since we've welcomed our new city solicitor in 2024, our legal operations have become more efficient, focused, and protective of our taxpayer interests. Thanks to proactive management, the number of active lawsuits involving the city has significantly decreased over the past year. We've prioritized settlements, monitoring litigation that's handled by Insurance Council, and strategically minimized unnecessary legal costs, which helps reduce our exposure and our expense. We've had numerous settlements in Fitchburg's favor from long past cases, including a $75,000 recovery from a Kimball Street footbridge incident and over a $20,000 recovery from a breach of contract regarding our DPW building roof. We have a resolution of legacy litigation that occurred all in 2024, including cases where Fitchburg was only tangentially involved, and that saved time and it saved court resources. We've also strategically used our Insurance Council, deferring active participation in multiple lawsuits so that we have strong defense with no extra cost to the taxpayers. And we also, the city of Fitchburg, which is a longstanding case that's stemming from Mark Barbadoro when he was building commissioner, that went all the way to the Supreme Judicial Court, where we prevailed in the landmark Board of Appeals versus BAK Realty case. So we have no new major cases pending for 2025. And so our legal standing is stronger, our risks are lower, and our focus remains firmly on protecting the city interests and its future, thanks to strong representation. We have so many grants. I have the community development here. I mean, I'm looking at 4, 6, 7, almost $8 million worth of grants, thanks to community development work, fueling revitalization through state and federal grants. We've done brownfields cleanup. We've had over 20 businesses open across the city in 2024. The Fitchburg Arts Community and Morin Square redesign. The community development department really just has their hands there, involved in so many things in the city, assisting all the departments with our community development and revitalization. Information technology, we're working on cybersecurity. There were 0 cyber attacks or data breaches this past year in the city of Fitchburg, even while the country faced unprecedented attacks and system failure. So the city of Fitchburg, major achievement, testament to our information technology team, in which over the last year, the city of Fitchburg IT department has had over 854 critical support requests through the IT help desk. That's over 2 a day.
And what is their staff? It's not a very, very large staff, right?
We have a staff of 3 in information technology. We really have our help desk coordinator, our master of all things, Phil, and then Trevor Bonilla, our IT manager.
So he's the IT manager, not the security director?
He also does security through our in-camera system. Let's see. We have supporting the new Fitchburg Public Library. We've got DPW building security overhaul, fire department technology upgrades, a GoGov rollout, and 40U enforcement automation thanks to a $62,000 grant we got from the state through an IT grant. Those are plans for the information technology team this upcoming year. Let's see, our budget, we can breathe a sigh of relief from our budget because, when I first started as mayor in January 2024, we started with a $7.6 million budget deficit, which was very challenging. And through a strategic look and fiscal watchdog watching, we made sure that over the past year that we were able to cut expenses, streamline efficiencies, and, take a look at really as positions came, people retired or left certain positions, whether or not really we had to fill those positions. In addition to, right-sizing our hotel excise and following in our neighbors of Leominster's lead with the meals excise, helping us to raise almost $1 million to address our budget deficit. So last year we started with a $7.6 million budget deficit, and we got that down to a balanced budget without having to reduce any staff or cut services to the city of Fitchburg residents. However, this year we're down to a $4.4 million deficit, which is a $3.2 million decrease in the right direction. A lot of that was also thanks to, a lot of that budget deficit, being out of control is, a good portion is thanks to the health insurance increases. So for the past 12 months, I have been actively working with our health insurance negotiating team with all of our unions and our city staff to make sure that we take a look at our, our health insurance offerings for our city employees and make sure that we right-size those benefits for an affordability for our taxpayers, because we were looking at a 22% increase in health insurance benefits without any action, and I'm pleased to tell you that we got that down to we cut that budget by over $1.5 million a year, just simply by plan design changes, and that's not even including the additional yet unknown funds. Hopefully $500,000 to $1 million of prescription benefit changes. So right now we're looking at a 12% increase in our employee benefits health insurance instead of a 22% increase, which helps us for pension, which helps us for our other post-employment benefits liability, and it helps us for our operating budget. So, our goal is a road to fiscal solvency, where next year, maybe we're at a $0 budget deficit, or maybe we continue to crack down on that, maybe another $3 million, maybe we're getting closer and closer.
Maybe you could explain to the audience with that $4.4 million deficit, how you're going to, take care of that with free cash and not lay anybody off in the city.
Right. So, the city of Fitchburg gets a certain amount of, funds that are certified from the state. So these are, we put in our city budget every year our estimated revenue, and we put our estimated expenses. So anything that's not spent in the estimated expenses, that top part, that gets certified to free cash. Anything that we get in excess of our estimated revenues, that portion also gets certified as free cash. Any new growth that we get in the city, so a new 68-unit housing development is created, we get new growth funds, that funds also goes to free cash. So our free cash certification for this year was $6.2 million. Which allowed us to funds to make sure that we put the appropriate amount into our stabilization, into OPEB, into our snow and ice funds, and make sure that we have a little bit of funds for
The stabilization fund being our rainy day fund, that was $350,000, and then it was $250 for OPEC. 250 was it? 250,000.
That sounds right.
Right.
Yes. So with stabilization, the recommendation is that we keep it at 5% of our operating budget at a minimum.
Yeah.
And, this, I have a bond rating meeting discussing, the Fitchburg's bond rating and, our previous deficit and our road to fiscal solvency and how we're tackling that and how things are on the up and up and how everybody's looking tough, but Fitchburg is looking on the up and we're doing all the right things. So, when we do the right things for fiscal solvency, like making sure that we have the appropriate amount in our rainy day fund, our emergency fund, your emergency fund at home, you should have at least 3 months of expenses, maybe even 6 months. Same thing for the municipal government. We should have at least 5% of our operating budget within our stabilization fund if there were to be some sort of catastrophe where we need to pull from that funds. So we're making sure that we're doing that. Doing all the right things while strategically making needed investments in our capital infrastructure. So, I got some quick numbers. $10 million plus in new grants secured, 20 streets on the list to be paved or reconstructed 2024 through 2025, 55 trees planted citywide in the parks. We have 5 new businesses just in the downtown, $3.2 million reduction in city deficit, 12% increase in health insurance, which is a 10% decrease from the projected, 28% decrease in overdose deaths, 58,000 calls to the police for service, and 11,000 plus fire and emergency responses. And I'll close with my last quote from Mayor Delaney from 1925.
1925, year after my father was born.
Really?
He was born in 24, yeah.
I think my grandmother was 1921. The loyalty, zeal, and efficiency of our citizens and public service will be the measure of our city's success. So let's do the hard work that we need to get done to improve our city for all our businesses and residents.
Now it's time for questions. I'm sure we have some questions here. I'm sure, Mary Ann, did you have a question about the Water Street area?
So I've been dealing with this for quite a while because I've lived on First Street for 47 years. And this is the worst I've seen it.
The worst how?
With the former St. Bernard's Church.
Oh,
It's across from my house. Bernie's been trying to help as much as he can with the police chief, fire chief.
Our health director's on it as well. You saw that very strongly
petition.
worded letter.
Yeah, I filed a petition.
Again, there's a window open.
You reported that?
I didn't this time.
Please report every single time that you see that happening, because all it takes is one time and, there could be a fire or a situation. You're not going to bother the police department or our fire services. If you see something, please call and report it right away.
So I've been doing that. A couple weeks ago, I had the police I would give during the day. It was school vacation week, so I don't know what it is, but the kids are just attracted to
It's an attractive nuisance.
The building really needs to be secured, and the fire chief, we were talking about, some services that can be purchased by the owner to really secure that building. And,
Yep.
The fire department was here, I think it was Easter weekend, they got a fire alarm call in the evening. They went through the whole building because they were afraid, there was a fire starting. And then I guess there was a brush fire over by the priest's house the next day.
Yeah.
They managed to put it out.
And the health director, Steve Curry, he's worried that steeple's going to fall on us.
Yeah, we noticed that it's about a 7-degree tilt there. Yeah, we're aware of it, and we are working to.
St. Bernard's.
We're going to make sure that building is secured by the owner.
The red building, casinos, Taylor's used to be, and I'm like smack in the middle of all of this. So we're, me and the other neighbors are doing our best to monitor it.
And please let us know, as you see things, because also the more calls for service, the more justification that we have to hold the building owner to account.
Yes, because they'll show up, but like you said, they don't do a thorough job. They'll put a board here, particle board.
Yeah, it's not working. It's not working with it.
No. I actually swept the street one day myself. They had glass. Their idea of cleaning was to take the leaf blower and blow the glass that was broken from the building into the street. So I cleaned it all up myself.
Well, Well, thank you for that, but in the future, let us know, and we'll make sure to hold them also to account for that. I mean, it's going to be,
It's a challenge.
it's a challenge, but the more reports that we get, the more that we can make sure that they're accountable for their lack of action. And through our improved Chapter 137 and 40U, we're able to better, enforce our health and sanitary code and our life safety code.
Was there something that you had mentioned at several meetings, probably last year, that there was some committee or some list of properties that you wanted to seize if it continues?
There's a task force. You want to talk about the task
I'm
force?
wondering if this
Why?
would fall under that at some point.
So,
We did a ride-along, actually, with Captain Garcia, and we looked at a lot of those buildings, and actually, Maribel Cruz from the Community Development Department. Yeah, there's a list, and...
yeah, that was a great idea.
Yeah.
We got a lot of information.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's an internal task force called the Neighborhood Improvement Through Code Enforcement Task Force. We meet monthly. I'm there almost every month, making, it includes DPW, fire, police, health department, community development,
I think those are the 5, right?
and oftentimes, the public safety chair or an area counselor of concern with whatever particular properties are on there. So, it's an internal meeting so that we can identify what issues are and what our internal team needs to do. Also, the assistant city solicitor is usually there because our assistant city solicitor, Donna Pollack, she's our local, representative who's constantly in court. Her job is basically living in court with our housing and building department issues. So, she is well aware of the majority of our problem properties and what needs to get done and the length of time that it takes to address them. So it's a challenge for government, but we're working the best we can within the boundaries of the law.
Any other questions?
Do we have, in all the city schools and buildings, have emergency generators? Because in 2008, when we had the ice storm, okay, I was up at Memorial, had to stay overnight, a couple of days, and then there was a very large emergency generator, that was towed in from Hudson Pass.
Yep.
And I was thinking, it sounds more like we need emergency generators at all municipal buildings.
Well, so there's a few different levels of emergency generator, right? Prior to being mayor, I've designed a number of emergency generators. So there's a small amount of emergency generation, right, where you have that on site and it's there to power your fire alarm system, your emergency lighting system, your critical components. But if you were to have a generator that can power 100% of your power needs in a large building like a school, that would be an extremely expensive endeavor. So the way we design it is you have a ready emergency generator that is there, that exists there and constantly being exercises for your emergency systems. But then you also allow for a plug-in. So that in case, and usually you have a contract with one of these large companies that if there were an emergency situation, you pay every year, that you get first priority to tow that large generator that you would need to power a school to plug in. So that situation occurs at a lot of large critical care facilities, perhaps a lot of schools and, other facilities like that. But being able to have a large-scale generator that can power the entirety of it and keep it on site is not cost feasible.
Well, I'm not talking about the whole building, every single electrical plug or lighting like that, just large enough to do the auditorium, gymnasium, cafeteria, in the hallways and like that, not every schoolroom and like that.
Well, as
The one in Hudson that I was speaking of came from the Hudson Fire Department, not some private companies.
Well, our fire department has some small generators.
Yeah, the Fitchburg Fire Department, which runs Fitchburg Emergency Management, they also have a number of generators that are available in varying sizes. So, you know, they're able to deploy, you know, volunteers through their CERT team as needed, in addition to Fitchburg firefighters themselves. But, you know, how exactly the makeup of each school's emergency generation, you know, what is on that emergency generation panel, I'm not exactly sure, but that is generally how, you know, buildings are run. There is an emergency generator for Fitchburg City Hall, for example, so that if we lose power, we have the critical infrastructure needs, you know, are maintained.
But do we have at least some kind of emergency generator at all municipal buildings?
Do we have them at all? I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised if we do have an emergency generation facility at all, because the majority of them do require emergency lighting and fire alarm system that have redundant, you know, electrical capability in case of power failure. But I'm not intimately familiar with the electrical situation with every building, but that is generally the standard. And certainly if we had the funding to, you know, repair every building, that would absolutely be the gold standard of what we would do.
Can you read again the last quote you said from the 1925?
The last one?
Yeah.
The loyalty, zeal, and efficiency of our citizens and public servants will be the measure of our city's success.
Well, I've been coming to these meetings here, and other than the one counselor, other than Councilor Schultz, who to put this on, has spoken like that, I've never seen any councilors at large or ward councilors to at least sit here and, you know, and maybe, or come up and explain what's going on in their ward, what needs to be done, or what has been done to improve their ward and like that. And then,
Well, Gary, you know what I would suggest?
we got four.
You should call them up on the phone and let them know your thoughts. Because the more participation and investment and communication and collaboration we get, the stronger the city is going to be.
Send a copy of that statement to all the city councilors, put it on the city website.
I'm going to publish my very lengthy State of the City on Wednesday, which you can watch Wednesday, 7 p.m., FATV.
7 p.m., yeah. And it'll be on the website as well, your State of the...
Of course, streaming at fatv.org.
Okay.
Or on your Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, or your smartphone, Android or iPhone. Nate's going to be so proud of me.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Any last questions before we leave? We all set? Okay. So, as I said earlier in the meeting, I don't host any meetings during the summer months, so the next meeting will be in September. And it'll be a Monday in September. We'll have to see how the schedule plays out. But thank you, Mayor, and
Thank you,
good night to
Councilor.
everyone. Thank you.